Hi, this is Wojtek again, and today we are recording another video from the series Witnessing to Jehovah Witnesses. Today's video is focusing on hypocrisy and double standard of Watchtower Association governing body. And mainly we are focusing on the neutrality, which Jehovah Witnesses very strongly defend that the members of the organization should not get involved with any political organization. So we are going to read a lot of materials, and let me start with this little book, which is Reasoning from the Scriptures. This is manual of Jehovah Witnesses on how to witness to others, and there's a lot of points to how to answer questions and how to give certain definitions of their faith and their doctrines. This book we have here is printed in 1985. 1985 Watchtower Tract Society, Bible Tract Society. On a page 269, right? 269, we have a chapter called Neutrality, and I'm gonna read just what they mean by being neutral. So Jehovah Witnesses say this: it is a fact of an ancient and modern-day history that in every nation and under all circumstances, true Christians have endeavored to maintain complete neutrality as to conflict between factions of the world. They do not interfere with what others do about sharing in patriotic ceremonies, serving in armed forces, joining in political parties, running for political offices, or voting. So this is the stand of the Watchtower Association. So let's see how they respond to this neutrality in the practice. So let's see. This is a bound volume of Watchtower magazines, and we're going to use many of those bound volumes. This is a bound volume of 1994, and in the magazine of 1994, magazine from May 15, on a page 31, we find so May 15, 1994, page 31, we find a article that is titled "Good News from Malawi." Here you go. Good news from Malawi. And I made this little underlining here. Let me just read for you. Violent persecution broke out in 1964. Why? In obedience to God, Jehovah Witnesses maintained strict neutrality in politics. So they are strictly obeying their own rules. Evidently, some did not quite understand this scriptural position and misinterpreted the witnesses as a radical religion and as outlaws. Many witnesses were fired from their jobs, beaten, and otherwise humiliated. Some were forcibly separated from their children. We go further. Thousands settled in refugee camps in neighboring Zimbabwe. But in 1975, these refugees were sent back to Malawi, where they had to face further persecution. Many were placed in concentration camps. What is going on here? This is what happened in Malawi. In Malawi, government of this country decided that every citizen of that country needs to purchase a voting card which says on which party they vote. And Jehovah's Witnesses refused to buy those cards. And that was the reason why Jehovah's Witnesses were prosecuted. Because they didn't want to get involved in any political parties or any political movement. So they refused to buy a card which says for which party they stand. So that was Malawi in 1964, and this persecution lasted until 1994 or 92. We'll read it soon. But let's leave Malawi for now and go to the nitty-gritty thing, to think that will open your eyes and see their hypocrisy and double standards. So let's go to bounded volume of 1963. 1963, Watchtower magazine. In Watchtower magazine 1963, on a page 688, which is November 15th edition of this magazine, on a page 688, there is a big article that is titled Execution of Divine Judgment Upon False Religion. This is it. This is it. So this is November 15, 1963, and this is the article. So, and a few pages further, we find the statements here. Actually, this is page 695. It starts like this: the seventh world power of Britain and America has been the chief advocate and baker of this international organization for world peace and security. In Revelation 13:11-15, the British-American dual world power is prophetically seen as a proposing and giving the birth of life to this international organization, which is an image of the political wild beast out of the sea. In harmony with this, the scarlet-colored, seven-headed wild beast, which is the eighth world power, must be the symbol of the now dead League of Nations and its living successor, the United Nations. We skip a little bit, we go to page 697, and we find this. Back in 1919, the Scarlet League of Nations had been seriously called the political expression of the kingdom of God on earth. And now the United Nations, the successor of the League, has been called the best mean for peace. Yes, even more than that, the last hope for peace. So today we can see in actuality what the Apostle John saw in symbol, that scarlet-colored wild beast is full of blasphemous names. Those expressions of admiration for it turn false religionists not to the worship of Jehovah God, the Creator, but to idolatry of a man-made creation, the worship of political image, the worship of an international organization for world peace and security. So this article condemns very strongly United Nations as a scarlet-colored beast, the devil's tool that comes to take power over the world. So let's go to next article, what they're gonna say. We are going to find what they're going to say about this NATO organization. This is a Watchtower bound magazine from 1967. 1967 on page 120. This is February 15, 1967. We find another article which is titled An Abortive Attempt to Establish a New World Order. There you go. This is the article. All right. And I'm going to read a few verses here. It starts like this. Will a peaceful new order of things ever come about? If so, who do you think is going to establish it? Now we skip a little bit and it says this. First of all, the Bible says that those trying by governmental and social reform to bring about such a new order, incorporating the things that the kingdom of God will accomplish, have taken hold of a wild beast. It is no ordinary wild beast either, for it is a monstrosity, having 7 heads and 10 horns on its head. It represents the worldwide human political organization under control of the devil. This, now we skip a little bit, we go to page 121 and it says this. In a paragraph, Death and Revival of the New Order Beast. That's a paragraph here, this one here. And here we're going to read this. The scarlet color of the beast represents royalty. When did it come into being, and when was this royalty attributed to it? At first, in 1920, when the League of Nations was ratified, up until World War II, it was Jehovah Witnesses where, like John, observing matters at the time, proclaiming the fact that the League was standing as a counterfeit substitute for God's kingdom. On the next page, it says, on page 122, we read, the 7th world power, the dual world power of Great Britain and America, had worked to bring the League of Nations into existence. Now, this same dual world power worked to get this international peace and security organization out of the abyss of apparent death. On June 26, 1945, 50 nations, not including Vatican City and ex-powers, signed the Charter of the United Nations in San Francisco, California. It was ratified in October 24, 1945, the number of nations being 29, including Big Five. It became part of international law. Then the United Nations became existent. Jehovah Witnesses were looking for further fulfillment of this prophecy, and they recognized that now the scarlet-colored wild beast had ascended out of the abyss. So Jehovah Witnesses today are proclaiming to the people of the United Nations that the people of United Nations is the same old image as the League, dressed up in a new name, and that it will not continue, and that it will not bring peace to the people. And we go further, and page 124, we read this. What about us as individuals? Should we give support to the international peace agreement? God says that He does not write in His scroll of life the names of those who give their worship to the wild beast image or who pin their hopes on it. Remember this. Let me read it one more time. What about us individuals? Should we give support to the international peace agreement? God says that He does not write in His scroll of life the names of those who give their support, their worship to the wild beast's image or who pin their hopes on it. That's very important that we remember this verse. And it reads further, true Christians therefore will recognize the United Nations, the image of the wild beast or scarlet-colored beast, as a counterfeit and aberrative attempt to establish God's new order in earth. So here we have very strong statement according to United Nations by Jehovah Witnesses governing body. So let's go to bound Watchtower magazines from 1984. So we go from 60s to 80s and further. So let's see what they say now. This is a magazine from September 15, 1984, page 15. And we find here an article that is called All Israel Saved to Bless All Mankind. This is the article. All right, and this is September 15, 1984. We read this. The UN, the United Nations, is not a blessing, even though the religious clergy of Christendom and the rabbis of Jewry pray heaven's blessing upon that organization. It is really the image of the wild beast, the visible political commercial organization of the God of this system of things, Satan the devil. So the UN will soon be destroyed along with that beastly organization. So Jehovah Witnesses, the governing body, make sure we understand that this is an image of the wild beast, the visible political commercial organization of the God of this system of things, the Satan, the devil. All right, remember what they say. Let's go now to 1987. Watchtower bound magazines of 1987. In 1987, we find in September 1st, on page 19, we find an article that is titled "On Guard Against Peace and Security as Devised by Nations." And this is this article, and here's the picture of the United Nations flags and all this. So let me read. This is the page, actually, page 18, where the article comes from, and we go to next page, to page 20, and we read this. In page 20, September 1st, 87 says this: "Like the symbolic scarlet-colored wild beast of Revelations chapter 17, upon which the old harlot, Babylon the Great, has seated herself, the League of Nations went into the abyss at the outbreak of the World War II in 1939. After the close of the World War II in 1945, the United Nations was set up as a successor of the ill-fated League of Nations." And a little farther, "The United Nations is actually a worldly confederacy against Jehovah God. United Nations is actually a worldly confederacy against Jehovah God and his dedicated witnesses on earth. It is really a conspiracy with the worldly nations getting their heads together and shaming up what they may do against the visible organization of Jehovah God on earth." Very strong words. Very strong words. Let's go to one more. This is 1990. Watchtower. Actually, this is Awake. This is Awake magazine from 1990. Awake magazine. All before there were Watchtower magazines. This one is Awake magazine, 1990. And it says this. Okay. This is a part of the article. This is actually an article on page 20, December 8th. December 8th, page 20 has an article that is titled "Human Rule Reaches Its Climax." So page 20, Awake magazine, "Human Rule Reaches Its Climax." And we go, we don't gonna read this, but we are going to page actually 24. And on page 24, we find paragraph for this article that is called "Be Shattered to Pieces." Okay, this is the paragraph, "Be shattered to pieces," right there. The picture and everything. And I'm going to read this part here. "Now, during the 20th century, the climax of human rule has been reached. Human governments have shamed to form the most brazen and defiant conspiracy against divine rule that has ever existed. They have done so not once, but twice, creating first the League of Nations and then the United Nations. The League ended in disaster in 1939. The same fate awaits the United Nations in full fulfillment of the Bible prophecy. Gird yourself and be shattered to pieces." Very strong words. of Watchtower Society, the governing body regarding the United Nations. Now, I'm going to show you the prints from the computer because I don't know how to. I'm old-dated, so I'm not really very computer-like man. And I know I could do it on a computer so you could see the pages of the websites, but I don't know how to do it. So what I did, I just printed. I printed, and I'm going to show you the prints, and I'm going to read. But you can go and find those the websites yourself. Those are the websites. Okay, here you go. You can write them up. This is the actual website, and this is the title, I guess, of this thing. Here you go. You can pause and rewrite it if you want, so you can use this website for your search, and you can go there yourself and see what I mean. Okay, this is the website. And I'm going to read it, so in case my writing doesn't really spell well, let me read it. This is www.jwfacts.com /Watchtower /United-Nations /association.php. So www.jwfacts.com /Watchtower /United-Nations /association php. .php. Okay, this is the website, and also Watchtowers United Nations Association. You can Google that, you can find it. This is the one, and another one. You can actually in this one you can find all the informations because that's where I got it from. But it'll probably I'll read you some other websites. This is another one is helpful. They can you can find it there. Okay, so let me read this. www.theguardian.com /UK /2001 /OCT, which is like October, /08 /religion.world. And this is Jehovah Witnesses link to you and acquired. Let me read this for you and you can write it. So it actually says www.theguardian.com theguardian.com /UK /2001 /OCT, like October, /08 /religion.world. This is the website, and this is Jehovah. Read it. Jehovah's Witnesses link to you and acquired. Okay, those are the websites where I got this from, but you can Google and find different websites. There's many of the websites you can get those documents that I'm going to read from. So you remember what Watchtower said about the United Nations. Now, what we find here is very disturbing. We find out that Jehovah Witnesses Organization joined United Nations and it was member of United Nations from 1992 until 2001. Jehovah's Witnesses, when they were presented with that, when they were confronted with this fact, they tried to mislead by saying they joined only so they can use library. But library, United Nations library, never needed a membership. That's first thing. And the second thing, to have membership, they had to agree and support all all of the doctrines, so to say, of United Nations. So they would have to be in full agreement with United Nations and support to them, otherwise they wouldn't be accepted as members. So just to show you, I'm going to show you the documents and I'm going to read portions of them. So I just printed, this is in United Nations. You see the logo, you see this. United Nations document from October 11 October 2001, and I'm going to read for you. To whom it may concern, recently the GEO, non-governing organization, that's a short, section had been received numerous inquiries regarding the association of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York with the Department of Public Information, DPI. This organization applied for association with DPI in 1991 and was granted association in 1992. By accepting association with DPI, the organization agreed to meet criteria for association, including support and respect of the principles of the character of the United Nations and commitment and means to conduct effective information programs with its constituents and to the broader audience about UN activities. In October 2001, the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York requested termination of its association with DPI. Following its request, the DPI has made a decision to disassociate with Watchtower Bible Tract Society of New York on 9th of October 2001. Let me read this here. By accepting association with DPI, the organization agreed to meet criteria for association, including support and respect of the principles of the character of the United Nations and commitment and the means to conduct effective information programs with its constituencies. Here you go. Here you go. You can pause, read it for yourself, or go to the website I just gave you and print it for yourself, or just look up. You can go to Google, search the membership of Watchtower Association in UN, in United Nations, and you will find it. I'm sure you will find it. All right. Here is another document I printed from there. Actually, this says, this is from the library, that they said that this was the reason for them to join the totally bogus and very lame excuse to accept and support the United Nations, the wild beast scarlet colored beast, United Nations. Here is this from the library. Okay, and I'm gonna read just part here. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was affiliated with the Department of Public Information (DPI) of the United Nations from 1992 to 2001. Another document. Here you go. You can print them out. Here you go. Another one. DPI and NGO. Here you go. DPI, NGO, that's United Nations, that's a logo of United Nations right here. And let me read it for you. Recently, the NGO, which is non-governmental organization section, has been receiving numerous inquiries. Actually, this is repeating what I just read. This is a different document with pretty much the same information than this. This is from United Nations. This is also from different departments. So pretty much same thing we just read. Okay, you can go and print it. This is another information from this whole website. It says this. To download the letter from United Nations website, go to ask.un.org. Okay, actually, let me go and write this in big letters. So it says ask.un.org /FAG/14501. Okay, that's what it is. I wrote in a large letter, in a capital letters. They are all small letters. I don't know if that makes any difference, but use small letters. So again, ask.un.org /FAG/14501. No, 14501. This is one, not slash, one. Okay, so let me read this again. To download the letter from United Nations website, go to ask.un.org /FAG/14501 and click on the link letter from the Watchtower Relations 2004. Originally, this appeared at UN.org/DPI/NGOSESTION/PDFS/Watchtower PDF. But this one will do this. With an archive of that page appearing at the website archive.org, a PDF letter is also booked up here. So they give you many of those websites. Just one more time, you can maybe pause and enlarge it and try to find all those websites. I don't want to go in time. I gave you the main website. Okay. All right. So this is it. And now I'm not going to go to read this because those are very small pictures of the application. Actually, what Watchtower, you can on a website, you can enlarge it, see those application. Actually, this is application that Watchtower gave to United Nations to be approved, and all the questions, and that might be interesting to you if you want to search. So this would be on the same website that I found it. Here is another letter from Jehovah's Witnesses Office of Public Information. There you go. Jehovah's Witnesses Office of Public Information. And now if you read it, I think you can see it. And I can read for a little portion of it. In 1991, one of our legal corporations registered with United Nations as a non-NGO, non-governmental organization, for the sole purpose of getting access to the excessive library of United Nations. That's a very lame excuse. This is actually Jehovah's Witnesses' letter of explanation. Very lame excuse. They had to accept and support all that United Nations do. This enabled a writer who received, and they go further what they did with this. And then United Nations, there you go, United Nations. All right, and let me read this right here. This is pretty cool. To be granted association with DPI, which is Department of Public Information of United Nations, the non-governmental organization, the NGO, must have national or international standing, support the character of the United Nations. So they have to have national standing and support of United Nations to become a member. So this is not just plain library. This is whole go-to place where they have to apply. This page with the application pages. They totally joined them. They totally became part of United Nations. And it also says there have been no changes to the requirements of NGO, which is non-governmental organization, being required to agree to support the idea of United Nations. This is stated in the following letter to an Enquirer in 2002, and also press release from 1992. That means, it says here, you see, this is the letter from United Nations that I'm gonna read right here in this letter. Says the United Nations does not force or trick any non-governmental organization to be associated with DPI. It has to be willing. The criteria for association for NGO have not been changed since 1991. And that also means that they didn't have to be members to go to the library, because there was no requirements for a library to be a member. So this is the hypocrisy of the governing body according to United Nations. But let me give you more to it. The more tragic situation that governing body puts itself in. Here we go. This is Awake magazine from 1991. Awake 1991, and we find in September 8 from 1991, on a page 11, on a page 8, we find article that puts light on a hypocrisy and double standard of Watchtower governing body as a lying and hypocritical organization of the devil. Look what this is dated 1991. This is when we're getting ready to actually they were already, let's see, when was the time when they were accepted? Let me see. They were accepted here 1992. So they put application 1991. So before they put application, or just right about that time, they made this article. They put this article so to clear themselves a little bit. And let's see how they cleared themselves. So let's see. Remember what they said. You remember what they said about themselves. That they stand away from it. They are neutral. They condemn the organization of United Nations and all this, and they called United Nations all the worlds of condemnation. But now in September 8, 1991, on page 8, we find this article. This is an article named "The United Nations: A Better Way." And let me read what they say. Remember what they said before, now what they said here. The preamble to the United Nations character expressed these noble aims. We, the people of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and desiring to untie our strength to maintain intentional peace and security, have resolved to combine our efforts to accomplish these aims. Did the United Nations, the UN, accomplish these aims? Did it get the nations to unite their strength and maintain peace and security? No, not so far, although the UN has sincerely tried to be a significantly better way than the League of Nations. And then we go to next page, page 10. The very last statement of the article says this: Jehovah Witnesses firmly believe that the United Nations is going to play a major role in world events in very near future. No doubt this development will be very exciting, and the results will have far-reaching impact on your life. We urge you to ask Jehovah Witnesses in your neighborhood for more details on this matter. The Bible clearly points a picture showing that United Nations will very shortly be given power and authority. The UN, the United Nations, will then do some very astonishing things that may well amaze you, and you will be thrilled to learn that there is yet a better way, near at hand, that will surely bring eternal peace and security. Right there. Right there. You can read that. You can pause and read it. Or you can search archives. This was September 8, 1991, Awake magazine. What a change of tone. What a change of... So United Nations is not that bad anymore, right? But that's not all. Let's go to Watchtower magazine, bound magazines from 1995. That's when they already been members for a couple years. Let's see what they say now. This is Watchtower magazine from October 1st, 1995. October 1st, 1995. Right after the cover page, the page number 3, right? Page number 3, I guess. Yep, page number 3. We have article that says 50 years of frustrated efforts. And this is what this article says. So, page 3 from October 1st, 1995. We read, "We the people of the United Nations determined to succeed generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small." That's a citation from the preamble to the Charter of the United Nations. They cited this, and now this is what they say. "For 50 years, the United Nations organization has made noble efforts to bring about world peace and security. Arguably, it may have prevented a third world war and a wholesale destruction of human life through the use of nuclear bombs has not been repeated. The United Nations have provided millions of children with food and medicine. It has contributed in approved health standards in many against dangerous diseases. Millions of refugees have received humanitarian assistance. In recognition of its accomplishments, the United Nations organization has been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize 5 times. Yet, the lamentable fact of life is that we still do not live in a world without war." And the article goes, and on a page 7, the end of the article, that's like a little highlighted part, the Christian view of United Nations. This is page 7 of that article, and the final statements of Jehovah's Witnesses. It says this: "Accordingly, Jehovah's Witnesses, who are maintaining strict political neutrality, do not interfere with human governments." Since when? They are already 3 years in that organization. "They never formed revolution or participated in act of civil disobedience. Rather, they recognize that same form of government is necessary to maintain law and order in human society. Jehovah's Witnesses view the United Nations organization as they do other governmental bodies of the world. They acknowledge that the United Nations continue to exist by God's permission in harmony with the Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses render due respect to all governments and obey them as long as such obedience does not require that they sin against God. So the time goes by, Jehovah's Witnesses think they are neutral, the great crowd, but the governing body misleads, is hypocritical, have double standards. And let's see how double standard works. So this is the Watchtower magazine, okay, from September 1st, 2003. September 1st, 2003. On the page 23, on page 23, we have an article which is quite emotional. This article is titled "Jehovah Always Cares for Us." Remember, we started by reading you news from Malawi. This is continuation. This article goes on, speaks about Malawi and all the persecution they had there. And on page 24 we find this statement in a paragraph: religious persecution begins. Okay. Religious persecution begins. And we read this: in 1964, Malawi became an independent nation. When officials of the ruling party learned of our neutral stand on politics, they tried to force us to buy party membership cards. Party membership cards. Because my husband Amos and I refused to do so, members of the Youth League, which is the organization of Malawi that was persecuting them, destroyed our field of maize, our main food supply for the coming year. In September 1967, a campaign to round up all Jehovah's Witnesses swept across the country. To find us ruthless and predatory young men. Okay, one more time. In September 1967, a campaign to round up all Jehovah's Witnesses swept across the country. To find us, ruthless and predatory young men, members of the Youth League and Malawi Young Pioneers, armed with machetes, searched for witnesses from door to door. When they found them, the men offered to sell them political party cards. Arriving at our house, they asked if we had a party card. I said no. I haven't bought one, I am not going to buy it now, and neither am I going to buy one in the future. Then they grabbed hold of my husband and me and took us to the local police station. And goes on. In Longwy, that's the name of the I guess a small city or something. In the Longwy, a mock trial was held at police headquarters. The officers asked us, "Will you continue to be Jehovah's Witnesses?" We answer yes. although this answer automatically meant a sentence of 7 years in prison for those who managed the organization. For those who managed the organization, the sentence was 14 years. And it goes on. Jehovah's Witnesses had been banned in Malawi. This ban lasted October 20, 1967 to August 12, 1993. Jehovah's Witnesses were already members of the United Nations for over a year. And people have been put in prisons for 7 or 14 years, beat up, cut up with machetes, their property destroyed, for refusing to buy membership card to the party. Because they stayed obedient to the rules of the Watchtower Association, to be neutral. But they joined already United Nations, the beast, the political organization, for over a year already. How come this is not a double standard? How come this is not hypocrisy? How come this is a God's organization? How come? Jehovah's Witnesses had been banned in Malawi. This ban lasted from October 20, 1967 to August 12, 1993. Almost 26 years. Those were difficult years, yet with Jehovah's help we were able to maintain our strict neutrality. Watchtower Association. This organization applied for association with DPI, the National UN, in 1991, 2 years before. In 1992, they were granted approval. In October 2001, they resigned. That's not hypocrisy. That's not double standard at all. This is how it got to be. Let me remind you what we just read. In February 15, 1967, Watchtower magazine. We already read that on the beginning. Let me just remind you. In a paragraph on a page 124, a paragraph titled "A Decision to Make." What about us individuals? Should we give support to the international peace agreement? God says that He does not write in His scroll of life the names of those who give their worship to the wild beast image or who pin their hopes on it. True Christians, therefore, will recognize the United Nations, the image of the wild beast or a scarlet-colored beast, as a counterfeit and an aberrative attempt to establish God's new order on earth. Dear friends, this is the truth. This is the truth on who is the governing body, on how the organization is run, and this is the proof if they are God's organization. If you like more of my videos, and if you like this one or more of them, subscribe to my account and see I have many videos, 35 or 4 whatever, on Jehovah Witnesses, falsity and hypocrisy and mockery and double standards. And subscribes to my account and go and search and find my playlists with those videos.